Based on our initial investigation so far, we can say that this is a street gang related shooting, and we believe that the two individuals who were shot here today were targeted.
The shootings continue just hours after the police chief tried to calm concerns about gun violence. One person is shot dead and another is in critical condition after bullets fly in East York this afternoon. It's becoming an all too familiar story. We've seen about 24 shootings in the city in the last week. This most recent one happened near O'Connor Drive and Victoria Park Avenue this afternoon. Ali Chiasson is there right now for us tonight. Ali, what do we know so far about what happened there?
Well, Dwight, 911 calls flooded in at around 2:25 this afternoon. Numerous witnesses saying they heard multiple gunshots, one after another. By the time police arrived, they found two men. One was pronounced dead at the scene and another is right now fighting for his life in hospital. I can tell you that there are currently two scenes that are taped off, one right here where I'm standing in front of some townhomes and another around back at a playground. The forensic unit will be here soon working on this homicide investigation. The K9 unit is also here coming in and out of these alleyways sniffing for clues. Right now, the police aren't releasing too much information on the victims nor the suspects who are at large. But one thing they can say, they are confident that these shootings were targeted. And just as you said, the tally is growing. And this shooting happened just hours after the police chief talked about their action plan and how their hands are a little tied here in really making the difference that they are trying to do. Have a listen. The tally keeps ticking. As of today, there have been over 24 shootings in August, 23 people suffering gunshot wounds. In 11 cases, no victim was found at the scene, just shell casings, and 2 deaths, including a 16-year-old boy.
This recent gun activity, these shootings that have happened over the past 10 days, by and large, have street gang connotations to them or are street gang related.
Bad guys shooting bad guys, the chief says. Some arrests have been made, guns seized, but not enough to make a dent.
The expectations are that we're going to arrest ourselves out of this. We simply are not.
And a revolving door bail system, he says, isn't helping. Right now, there are 326 people out on bail with gun charges against them.
That is unbelievable.
Evelyn Fox lost her son Kissinger to gun violence in 2016. The back-to-back shootings this week in Scarborough happened 5 minutes from her house.
For some of us, it really does not feel like a safe city. We are terrified to let our surviving children know.
She says families like hers are being re-traumatized with every shooting.
Like, I watched my son die from a bullet wound, and I'll never forget that. And it literally plays in your head over and over and over again, and you just wonder, like, why my son? Out of everybody there, why my son? And it literally makes you feel like you're going crazy.
With this afternoon's shooting, that adds another Toronto family grieving and wondering if another killer may eventually be out on bail.
Our justice system is failing us. Our justice system does not care about the victims. They cater more to the perpetrators and do not care about the victims. That's horrible.
Today, the police chief said he'd like the bail laws to change, but they're federal.
If we had an opportunity of making some sort of amendment or some sort of understanding in the courts, because you can be sitting court in Toronto, but your bar, your benchmark is on what's going on in Canada.
So we asked more about that federal bail system and what changes, if any, can be made here for a special circumstance of Toronto's current gang problem. Minister of Border Security and Organized Crime Reduction, Bill Blair, said in a statement to us, where an individual is released on bail, the releasing judge is required to impose conditions preventing possession of a firearm. If the accused person breaches that term, the Crown can seek to revoke bail, and as always, individual determinations of bail are left to the court. So obviously a very complicated system. It's all too easy to get a gun in this city, is something that we've heard from the police chief over and over again. And these cases will just have to continue to be investigated locally along with the Guns and Gang Unit. I'll send it back to you for now.
Yeah, that's a lot of people out there on bail facing gun charges. Thank you for that, Ali. Now, Chief Saunders also provided updates on several shooting investigations. They made one arrest in a shooting in Yorkville earlier Monday, and police made 3 arrests in a shooting near Lombard and Church Streets also on Monday. Police responded to the sound of gunshots just after 4 a.m. They say a vehicle pulled up to a group and an occupant fired several shots. They say there was an exchange of gunfire. They located 2 victims and a firearm at the scene. Police are asking for help locating one outstanding suspect, 27-year-old Hassan. Members of the public are being asked not to approach him and to call police immediately if you see him. Police have also made 1 arrest and recovered a firearm after a shooting Sunday, now considered part of a robbery. It happened on the Bridle Path at about 6 a.m. outside a multi-million-dollar home rented out on Airbnb. Paramedics transported 1 victim. 2 suspects are still outstanding.
We don't want guns in the hands of the wrong people.
More and more pressure on the government in the U.S. to do something about gun violence there. We'll have more on how the president is reacting a little later in the show. Many parents at a North York daycare were met with an unpleasant surprise this morning when they dropped off their kids at Willow Brae Academy. They were told it would be closing down at the end of the day. That has left many parents scrambling to make other arrangements in an already overcrowded daycare system. Greg Ross explains.
Parents are distraught, the workers are distraught.
Many parents only found out that Willow Brae Academy was closing its doors when they dropped their kids off this morning.
I have a toddler that's in there right now on her last day and has no idea about it. And all the workers are crying. I mean, it's terrible.
It's shocking because our kid is pretty settled here and she loves the teachers and she has friends, and suddenly we have to search something next Monday, so it's not easy. Not for us, not for kid.
The daycare actually emailed parents yesterday afternoon, letting them know their landlord was going to be repairing the roof. As a result, they would no longer have access to their playground, and because government regulations require them to have outdoor space, they say they had no choice but to shut down.
It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens more often than you would think.
Martha Friendly is the executive director of the Child Care Resource and Research Unit. She says the unfortunate part is parents have no recourse.
It's merely a private business, and there's nothing to really safeguard any kind of parents' rights. There's no entitlement. They don't have any kind of, I could see that the center is offering them a refund, fine, but they don't have childcare anymore.
And it's unlikely they'll be able to have a new daycare provider by the start of the workday Monday.
We gotta look for another daycare and meanwhile make some other arrangements. It's not that in the city you find a daycare right away.
I'm sure every place around here you gotta stay in the waiting list. 5 months, 6 months, that's the thing.
In the email the daycare sent to parents, they claim to have only learned about the building repairs on Wednesday. But many parents found that hard to believe.
They should at least let us know 5-6 months before that. We're devastated.
Friendly says more government regulation of the daycare system could prevent this.
It needs to be accepted as a much more public responsibility and not just a regulated private operation with public, a little public money.
We reached out to the owners of the daycare as well as representatives for the landlord, but did not hear back. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Now this is an urban garden. We've got some tomatoes, we've got chard, we've got peppers, and if you think this is impressive, just wait until you see what's going on in the backyard. That story coming up.
It is a situation that seems to be getting worse and worse as the summer goes on. Water levels at Wasaga Beach have been inching higher and higher, and today the edge of Lake Huron came up and over the road that runs along the beach. This was the scene at the popular Sandy Beach on the southern end of Georgian Bay. Today, long stretches of the beach were already dramatically narrowed due to the high water. Local businesses told CBC in July they are concerned with how it will affect tourism. The town says it is monitoring the high water situation. Some nice weather coming our way this weekend, call it. Lots of folks hoping to head in that direction up to Wasaga.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it is looking like a really nice weekend, 90% of it. I'll get into the details of what I mean by that. A few isolated showers will show up, but really looking like we're going to have a couple of nice days. And did you notice the difference with the temperatures this morning, back towards seasonal readings? So 6 a.m. this morning, 15 degrees, that's actually rounding up from 14.5 was the overnight low. All these readings, Kitchener down to 13, in fact. So kind of getting back to where we should be at this time of year, even a tiny bit below. The winds have been sustained at around 30 kilometers an hour throughout the day, coming in from the west to northwest. So that's why it's ushering in a little bit cooler air. And some of the gusts have been quite strong. At times I've seen a gust over 50 kilometers for the city. So it is a little breezy. Those are going to start to ease as we get into the next few hours. So later on this evening towards the overnight, they're still going to be primarily the same direction, but they'll back off a little bit. Our current temperature is 24, but it really feels like about 24, maybe 25 or so. We just don't have the humidity to be worried about the humidex values anymore. A few of these isolated showers that showed up to the north and to the east, those have tracked off over the lake. Now a little further east, there's still some active weather that's occurring from about Napanee on towards the nation's capital and to the north as well. But we're doing pretty well back not only towards the GTA, but back into southwestern Ontario as well. All right, I said 90% of the weekend, right? So 6 a.m., an isolated shower. I actually don't think we're going to see anything there, but what I do think we have the risk of is tomorrow afternoon, kind of like today, just some spotty showers showing up, more so that risk to the north and to the east, and they should be very short-lived and then move on out. Sunday looking great through most of the day. It's not till we get towards Sunday evening, some scattered showers first into cottage country and then could make their way down towards the lower lake shore. Overnight, 14 degrees and clear, 25 for tomorrow, increasing cloudiness into the afternoon. It warms up though, Dwight, on Sunday. I'll tell you about that coming up.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Defying injury and a tough opponent, 19-year-old Bianca Andreescu is on to the semifinals of the Rogers Cup. The Pride of Mississauga faced former world #1 Karolina Pliskova of the Czech Republic in her quarterfinal match today. She took the first set easily, but Pliskova came back. A late-game thigh injury plagued the hometown favorite, but she didn't back down. She's the first Canadian woman to make it this far since '79. She'll take on Sophia Kenin from the U.S. in the semis tomorrow. Mindfulness is a topic that's been on people's minds, from meditation apps to spots in the city created to help you zen out. The relaxation trend is booming. Talia Ritchie checked out a couple of these places and spoke to a psychiatrist about why it helps.
Taking a deep breath and a slow step. Along Toronto's waterfront, a group embarks on a reflective experience combining music, spoken word, and nature.
Very simple but powerful when we connect our steps with our breath and take in the landscape, how slowing down and realizing that we're not walking to get from point A to point B anymore, we're just moving to be in the present moment.
Being present seems like a state many are seeking out these days. Hundreds signed up for Mind Travel's first hike in the city, a guided walk with wireless headphones.
It's easy to spend hours staring into your phone, and it's not easy to sit for hours and stare at the water anymore, which is crazy. So I want to get back to doing more of that too.
I think people more than ever are looking for ways to find more meaning, to find more calmness.
And that's just one of the ways that people are trying to achieve mindfulness. They're also lying in float tanks, and they're downloading apps, and they're even doing yoga with puppies and goats. At Soul 7 in Yorkville, the idea is that your brain needs to stay fit just like your body.
From here, we would give you headphones that are just to your right.
These NeuroFit pods aim to help people relax and recharge.
Through guided visualization, sound frequency therapy, and personal mastery coaching. So in a 45-minute session, a deep state of relaxation and mindful meditation is achieved.
And beyond the businesses, one psychiatrist says there's also been clinical studies looking at the benefits of this practice.
Mindfulness might be incorporated in terms of cancer care, helping people with that illness cope better. Mindfulness certainly is a red-hot area when you talk about depression and preventing depression relapses. Mindfulness is also something that people sometimes use when they're trying to reduce stress.
Dr. Greitzer says that perhaps the fact that we're talking more about mental health could be contributing to the rise of these businesses and experiences. But he also wants to remind people that before they break the bank on relaxing, it's best to see a family doctor if they do have symptoms of mood or anxiety disorders. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
I'm Natalie Danowski. A group of Ryerson engineering students want to build a rocket engine, but Ryerson won't let them, even though up the street, the University of Toronto is doing it. I'll have that story coming up.
We are learning new details tonight about the deadly shooting in Texas last weekend. Police now say the 21-year-old accused confessed to the murders at the El Paso Walmart and said he was targeting Mexicans. That shooting and another one in Ohio just hours later have dramatically increased pressure on Donald Trump and the Republican Party to do something about access to guns. Karen Pauls has more now from Washington.
The heat and humidity didn't hinder an opportunity for President Donald Trump to tell reporters what was on his mind. The wide-ranging discussion included some nuggets on gun control.
I think meaningful background checks are a real positive.
The National Rifle Association has been warning Trump that that won't go over well with his base. But he didn't seem too worried about that, saying his supporters take their guidance from him.
I really believe that the NRA, I've spoken to them numerous times, they're really good people. They're great patriots. They love our country. They love our country so much. And frankly, I really think they're going to get there also.
In the wake of attacks last weekend that killed 31 people and injured many more, Trump also suggested there's growing political support for gun legislation.
We don't want insane people, mentally ill people, bad people, dangerous people. We don't want guns in the hands of the wrong people. I think that the Republicans are going to be great and lead the charge along with the Democrats.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said he has no plans to reconvene the Senate from its summer break, but he said there are bipartisan discussions taking place.
Background checks and red flags would probably lead the discussion, but a lot of other things will come up as well. But what we can't do is fail to pass something.
The president's ideas on gun control have evolved over the course of this week. This is some of the strongest language he's used so far, but he said things like this before, and there's been no change. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Washington.
Just to be clear, now we run this neighborhood.
3 women, 1 infamous New York neighborhood. Coming up, our movie expert, Eli Glasner, joins us to see if the kitchen is cooking up something good. His review after the break.
I want you to teach me how to do it.
Just to be clear, now we run this neighborhood.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
can see you got brains, and I know you got money. But we got one thing that you don't. We got criminals.
Melissa McCarthy, Tiffany Haddish, and Elizabeth Moss play three women stepping into the gritty world of organized crime in the new drama The Kitchen, out in theaters today. But does this movie cook up something good? Our Eli Glasner is here to give us his taste. So, Eli, set the scene for us.
All right, the scene is the Big Apple 1978 Devil's Kitchen. So the apple, not exactly rotten, but let's say bruised. I mean, the city's seen better days. You got liquor stores, strip clubs, every corner. And yet, the poor guys in the Irish mob, they just can't make a go of it. Collections are down. And then even worse, those three ladies, Ruby, Kathy, and Claire, well, their husbands get picked up and sent off to the big house for robbery. So what's going to happen? Who's going to support them? Well, let's take a look.
Our husbands have 24 months left on their sentences.
Sorry, baby. This is the Irish mob, organized crime. We're gonna take care of you. You girls are gonna be just fine.
We got no money.
Can't even make the rent with what they gave me last night.
They're getting those little envelopes slid under the door, but it's not exactly cutting. It's certainly not for Kathy. Melissa McCarthy as the mother of two. Tiffany Haddish playing Ruby. Now, of course, she married into this family, seen as an outsider as a black woman, so she hasn't been quite accepted. And then Elizabeth Moss shows up as Claire, a woman who's actually being beaten by her husband. So they're all squished together. What are they going to do? They decide, you know what? We're going to take back that collection business. We're going to start racketeering again. We're going to show the guys we're going to be even better than them. Let's take a look.
You've been telling us forever that we are never going to do anything but have babies. To men that have forgotten what family means.
So we remind them.
Now, let's be clear. They're not talking about starting a knitting club. This isn't Neighborhood Watch. This is the mafia, right? And yet there is this nostalgia, almost romanticizing what they do. There is a scene where they visit this woman in a restaurant, and she says, I remember when paying money for protection used to mean something. Like, oh, the good old days, Dwight, when the mob was the mob. But nevertheless, Kathy and friends are doing quite well, so well that they're worried about the husbands coming back.
Okay, I kind of like this concept. It does sound promising. So, what was the viewing experiencing like?
Here's the viewing experience. I'm watching the movie, and Melissa McCarthy steps onto the screen, and she's trying to be tough and push the guys back in their place, and the audience starts laughing. And it's not a comedy. And that exactly is the problem, because that means we're not taking it seriously, and it's because the script is so shallow. The mom who morphs into a mobster, Tiffany Haddish as Ruby, whose her one asset seems to be just giving everyone stink eye, and then Elizabeth Moss, who goes from being the victim to basically becoming almost psychotic. She hooks up with a character named Gabriel, played by Donald Gleason, and he teaches her how to cut up bodies and make sure you stab the lungs so they sink in the river. And,
so what?
And she likes it. Yeah, so there you go, little Bonnie and Clyde trajectory in the middle of all this madness.
I feel, though, like I saw this movie last year, the year before, Widows.
And you did, and it was 1,000 times better.
Yeah, you liked that one, I remember.
I didn't like it, I loved it, and not enough of you saw it, so go rent it maybe after this show is done. Here is Widows, very similar except for the setting. It is about a group of women from different places who come together because they lose their partners in a heist that goes wrong, and they decide to pick up the pieces. Take a look.
Now, the best thing we have going for us is being who we are. Why? Because no one thinks we have the balls to pull this off.
Now, do you think anyone was laughing at Viola Davis when she said,
no,
no, you were afraid she was going to come for you,
yes,
right?
Sir.
And that's because she's fantastic. That's because the director, Steve McQueen, set the tone. He had a great setting. He had something to say about America. The other thing I love about Widows is that it showed the work, showed how the women prepared so that when they did pull off this thing, you believed they were capable. Not the case with The Kitchen, where they get this Cinderella mob makeover and suddenly they're counting cash and trading jewelry. Not a good film. Undercooked, overbaked, whatever you want to call it, just don't see it. 2.5 stars out of 5.
You're being kind with the 2.5. Happy Friday, Eli.
You too.
I'm Adrian Chung, live from the Danforth for Taste of the Danforth. It's night one of all the music and drinks and, of course, souvlaki that you can handle all weekend long. I'll show you what all these people are lining up for coming up.
A group of engineering students from Ryerson University have dreams of building their own rocket engine. The problem is the school won't let them. They are pushing back, saying other Canadian universities allow it, so why doesn't Ryerson? Nalinowski has their story.
These are the fins that basically help with stability during flight.
Balin Moher wanted his rocket to go faster after competing in the U.S.
I kind of saw that a lot of these teams have their own student researched and designed liquid engines, and that's exactly what I wanted to do.
So he created the Ryerson Propulsion Group that would build an engine fueled by ethanol and laughing gas.
We had the meeting and everything was fine, and we had over 100 applicants at the beginning of September. Huge interest in the group.
The team even got outside mentorship from an aerospace engineer who helps Canadian schools like UFT.
These students have gone from winning all the top awards at major international competitions to increasingly getting into more advanced stuff like liquid rocket propulsion.
What I'm learning in university as an aerospace engineer, I'm able to apply it into this team.
But suddenly the group's progress stalled when Ryerson asked them to change their proposal.
They think rocket engine, they think explosion, right? But there are risks in every engineering project, and we are taught as engineers to, assess those risks.
The group says it hasn't heard from the university since April, despite providing the changes the school requested, including providing examples from other universities like Concordia and UBC. When CBC News reached out to Ryerson asking them why they denied the project, the university declined to comment.
The most discouraging thing for me was that even after these students were really diligent and really careful about, pulling in advisors, doing all the work, trying to understand what the risks are and how to deal with them, even that didn't seem to satisfy the university.
Even though the project is grounded for now, the team hopes it will soar in September. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Remember, if you have a story you would like us to look into, we would love to hear from you. Just send us an email, torontotips@cbc.ca. Police say a woman just strolling along a sidewalk is dead after being struck by a vehicle in North York.
A vehicle was traveling on Finch Avenue East. The vehicle mounted the curb, and in doing so, it struck a pedestrian who was walking along the sidewalk eastbound as well. The force of the impact was very severe, and unfortunately, the pedestrian was killed as a result of the accident.
She was struck just before 10 a.m. and was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver remained and was taken to hospital. Police say they are investigating why the vehicle left the roadway. They say there's no indication drugs or alcohol were a factor. Police are looking for any witnesses or anyone with video of the incident. Going back to our top story now, one person is dead and another is in critical condition after a shooting near Vic Park and O'Connor. This follows two shootings that happened overnight in our city, one in Scarborough, and one in a Scarborough neighborhood that has seen 3 shootings in just 4 days. Police were called to a basketball court in Scarborough around 1 a.m. for reports of gunfire. Witnesses say they saw people running from the area near Lawrence Avenue East and Kingston Road. One man made his way to hospital. He is expected to survive. The second shooting took place on Martin Grove Road north of Finch. There were no signs of victims, but police say occupants in a vehicle fired into a group of people standing on a sidewalk. The group fled and the vehicle drove northbound. Police found multiple shell casings on the ground. They are asking anyone who may have information to come forward. According to stats from police, Toronto is on pace to set a new annual record for total shooting incidents and victims. Now, today, the mayor released a statement echoing Chief Saunders' thoughts on the recent violence. John Tory says in part that he wants to stop granting bail to repeat gun offenders. He says, quote, repeat gun offenders simply shouldn't be out on bail. We have seen what happens when they are. While each case is different, sentences simply must fit the extreme gravity of these gun crimes. And right now, they often don't. In that statement, Tory also renewed his call for a citywide ban on handguns. Premier Doug Ford countered that today, saying that wouldn't work. At the same event, Ford made headlines by doubling down on his previous comments about a patient who escaped from CAMH. Here he is responding to a reporter who asked whether he regrets calling the man a, quote, nutcase.
I don't regret it at all. The person I was talking about took a meat cleaver and hacked up his roommate. Who does that? And there isn't one person in this room, including yourself, would want him as a neighbor. No one. And it's about time politicians stop hiding behind, podiums and being politically correct. Just imagine if it was your daughter that this animal chopped up.
The patient in question is Bin Kong. He went missing from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health on July 3rd.
Maybe we could just run away for good, 'cause we're both misunderstood.
They are popular in Europe, but not that well known in their own hometown. Electric Youth is starting to tear up the music scene in North America. I talked to them about their new album out today. That conversation a little later in the show.
On the heels of something more, in the wake of.
It is one of the top food festivals in this city. For many, the Taste of the Danforth has been a can't-miss culinary event for the last 26 years. Adrian Chung has stopped eating to join us from Danforth and Logan. So, Adrian, what can we find at the festival this year?
Well, Dwight, you already know the score. It's all about food, and more food. Of course, there's also music, dancing as well, a lot of drinks. And about that dancing, this is a Greek festival, of course, but there's a lot more representation, too, of those dance troupes, that there are quite a cross-section of Torontonians being represented. Chinese, Jamaican, Persian, South Asian, so real representation of the city. But back to that food, of course, it smells incredible here, and I'm joined by David Cox here. David, who is hard at work on the Hero Spit here. David, this has to be one of the busiest weekends of the year.
Oh, yeah. Trying to feed the masses of hungry people is hard to keep up. As you can see, lineups are already across the street. Oh, yeah. It's going to be a busy weekend, especially if the weather keeps beautiful like this. It's going to be great.
You've been doing this for years. What does the preparation look like?
Well, they go at least weeks before, getting all the orders ready, everything, making sure that they got a lot of pitas, a lot of sticks. As you can see, we got a limited menu out here trying to keep up, like I say. But they always got to have everything, like I say, in order. They got to have all their equipment. They got to have all the food ready, because you never know how many people we're going to end up feeding in the end of it.
I love Hero, but I also love skewers. You want to take me quickly over there?
It's amazing, yes, sir.
So we're over to the skewer station here, and this is where the
pork souvlaki over here. Well, he's got pork all over now, but he's also got the chicken going. Usually he's got chicken on the one, the pork on the other. Oh yeah, this is Yanni, the friendly Greek himself.
Can I grab one of these slices or what?
Give it a shot.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe
Ooh,
hot.
Hot too. Yeah. Jealous yet, Dwight? Very good.
Not too bad.
Pretty good.
You like pork?
Love it.
He's busy eating. He's not even throwing back to us. He's just showing off with the food. With over 1 million people expected at the Taste of the Danforth over the next 3 days, you know what that means, road closures. The closures went into effect this morning and will remain in place until Monday at 3 a.m. Danforth Avenue will be closed between Broadview and Jones. Pape will be closed from Lipton to Hazelwood, and Logan will be closed for 1 block north of the Danforth. And major portions of Line 1 will be closed this weekend for signal upgrades. On Saturday, the subway will be closed from Bloor Young Station to Osgood Station until noon. And on Sunday, the closure will shift from King Station to St. Clair West Station. That one will last all day. Shuttle buses will run all weekend. With the slow start to spring, lots of us assumed this wouldn't be the best year for agriculture, but it turns out urban gardens across the city are having a great season. We thought we'd take you for a tour to meet some of the city's most creative urban gardeners and have a look at how they have made the most of the season. Daniel Clark has the story.
We're here in Etobicoke, outside of what looks like just a normal house, but they got something really special going on in the backyard. Let's go take a look.
Well, welcome to Zawadi. This is one of the 3 plots that we have. We do our washing in here, we do all our harvests in here, we do our packing in here, we do everything, all of it in one spot.
Jesse Zhao and Misha Shojai started their business 3 years ago, and it blossomed. All Toronto grown, they provide fresh produce to 40 households through their community-supported agriculture program.
We use organic practices. We're not certified, but we use 100% of any organic practices that we know.
Extra produce is given to Food Share Toronto, a nonprofit who provides fresh fruits and veggies to people in the city who need it most. They're big on sustainability too, collecting rainwater, sometimes 4,000 liters in one day. Now, it's time to sample. You can tell it's right because it comes right off the vine, eh? So good.
I steered in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, just sit and just eat some tomatoes, just thinking this is crazy. I am in Toronto eating fresh produce. We transplanted this Hungarian sweet peppers, and the only problem is we don't know which is hot and which is not.
You don't know if
so this is a roulette. So you want to jump in?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'll cut it. I'll cut it.
Right. So you don't know if this is hot or
I don't
sweet?
know. So I'm
All
gonna
right,
go.
So we're gonna try it?
Yeah.
Ah, I think it's sweet.
It's actually sweet.
No, I'm kidding. They grow spinach, lettuce, Swiss chard, all kinds of tomatoes, even fresh garlic. Jesse and Misha also gave us tips for beginners.
Yeah, kale is by far one of the easiest plants and like higher yielding crops, and you can harvest every week from it. And cherry tomatoes are also good.
Funny, that's what I grow on my balcony garden.
We want more people to learn how to farm. Somebody took the time and effort to equip us, and we want to do the same thing to them.
Daniel Clark, CBC News, Toronto.
Love food fresh from the garden. As we head to break, here's a look at where the market's closed today. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Colin, I'm hoping to be canoeing on Lake Eugenia up north this weekend, and I won't need my Raptors hat in case it rains or anything, because that's really what I use for an umbrella. I'll be all right out there?
Well, mostly.
Uh-oh.
No, Dwight, you're going to be fine. They're just like a few pockets with some isolated showers we're going to see. Most of this weekend is great. Dwight's going to stay dry. He'll be just fine. How long's it been since we've seen a little breeze come in that's a bit brisk from the northwest? It's been a little while, and that's what we're experiencing. The data missing here, but I can tell you what it is for the city. It's been just around 50 kilometers an hour, some of the gusts that we're seeing, and some stronger ones. Oshawa over 30 and Barrie over 40 there. So yeah, some cooler air has made its way in, and not only is it cooler, but the humidity, so the moisture in the air is down. So when you see 24, it almost feels like 24. You can add a degree or two. That's about it in terms of the humidity. So there's not really a need for Humidex at this time when we've got kind of comfortable temperatures like this. Some active weather still seeing. You see some of these lightning strikes over into eastern Ontario. We had a few cells earlier here just off towards the east, primarily a little towards the north, but mostly east of the downtown, and then those pushed out over the water. So here's what I was trying to kind of point out. So Saturday, early morning, one little stray shower possible. I don't even think we'll see anything. Then, as we go into Saturday afternoon, a few isolated showers, kind of like today, just a few spots seeing some wet weather, mostly to the north, to the east. Then Sunday, get out in the canoe. Looks great till we get towards the later part of the day. We get into some cloud cover, into cottage country, some showers, and some of those showers making their way down towards the lakeshore, but not a lot that we'll be seeing. Overnight tonight, lows of 14 to 15, really comfortable weather through the overnight hours. And tomorrow afternoon, other than those isolated showers, 24 to 25, so mid-20s again, close to seasonal, actually a little bit below seasonal. We heat up, though, into Sunday. Sunday night into Monday, a few showers possible, even warmer Monday, and then we're going to do it all over again, and the temperatures are going to dip, and we get into some rainier conditions on Tuesday. So just take the hat, Dwight, just to have it.
And I can
I mean, it's
canoe
the
in the rain.
Raptors.
There you go. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
The Pan American Gliding Championships are on this week. It's happening at a gliding club in Rockton, just west of Hamilton. A longtime glider pilot took CBC Radio's Fresh Air host, Nanaba Duncan, for a ride. You've got to take a look at this.
Here we go. We are now flying down the runway.
Oh my God!
Touchdown. I'm now rounding out. There we go. We're now down on the ground. We're rolling out towards the hangar. I'm now using the wheel brake. I'm very happy we were able to get this flight in the window, the weather window that we were given. That thunderstorm this morning didn't look very promising, but now we've managed to have a really nice flight in between the cells. How was that?
That was amazing.
You gonna come back and do it again?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
And I want to bring all my friends.
That's Toronto duo Electric Youth with their breakout song, A Real Hero. It was featured in Drive, starring Ryan Gosling and Carey Mulligan. The synth-pop duo and real-life couple have produced music for over a decade now, and today they released their second album, Memory Edition. While they've made waves in England and France, Electric Youth have remained relatively low-key in North America. Will Emotion put them on the map here? I met with Austin Garrick and Bronwyn Griffin to talk about their album, making music, and how they met at a Hamilton middle school.
We met when we were 10 years old in 6th grade. And it was years before we started working on music together. We were always involved individually.
Even before middle school started, I was walking in to get my classes, and he spotted me and was like, oh, it made an impression of some sort.
And now you're together in this band, so tell us about this new album you have coming out.
So it's our second studio album. It's called Memory Emotion. We really try to make a point of doing something that's distinctive and sort of something that we feel like is a contribution to the musical landscape out here that we don't really see other people doing so much.
Could we talk about the inspiration for your music?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, is the things we grew up on. And I mean, I think it's so in us that it's just kind of a part of our creative fabric. So I wouldn't say there's really like conscious influences when we're working, but once the album is out, once the records are out, it's sort of after the fact we see the comparisons people draw to it, and it makes sense because it's definitely the things that were around us, have been around us our whole life.
'Cause we're both misunderstood.
Do you feel like your sound has evolved from your first album to now?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I would say it's like an expansion on our sound. The second record, more so than any sort of like a departure. With our first record, we really wanted to make a point of what our sound was, and on the second record, we kind of felt like we have the space to explore a little bit more the spectrums of that sound.
And musically for yourself?
Yeah, and I think musically, the first record, it was also us growing up, and it was all that information and all that experience going into our first album, whereas our second album, you can definitely hear more maturity, but it still has the essence of the melodic content. Melody is first and foremost.
You produce music also for like movies and soundtracks. How is it different, like making your own songs for yourselves and then also making songs to fit into a film?
The biggest thing I think difference-wise is like we're our own boss when we're making our records. We have a director to answer to and producers to answer to. Honestly, we love both. It's really a different thing. But yeah, you have a little more freedom. Both brings different sets of freedoms.
We have to take you back a little bit because I've known this guy since he was a youngster. And I think a lot of people on Queen West might remember you because you used to play on that corner right there, drumming, and people used to come and be giving you cash.
My dad, he's a drummer, and one day I started playing drums.
I loved it, I was gonna be at home in the basement anyways, so my dad was like, why not get you a little audience and start to get you comfortable.
You know what's cool? There's so much great music coming out of this city and this country right now. And it's just great to see you guys be a part of it, especially you, because
it's great to see
I've known you since you were a kid, and you. Welcome, and
thank you
for
much.
the music, man. I'm looking forward. I've already downloaded it, so I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Appreciate
Congrats, guys.
Appreciate it. Cool. Thank you.
Great to see our hometown kids making it big. Now, we do live in a great city with a lot of great people helping out in our communities. Now, when we come back, Colette will tell us about a catering business that is giving back. Stay with us. Time now for the segment we call Greater Toronto. Colette joins us with a story about a catering company of a different kind here, Colette.
Yeah, this is a catering company with a great idea. So first of all, to set this up, every night in the GTA, there's over 1,000 women and their children which are seeking shelter.
Yes.
So that's something important to know. Red Door is the largest shelter for families here in Toronto. Now, enter Chef's Catering. It's a small family business. They have a desire to give back, so they got creative. They primarily service large corporate clients, and the owner, Justin Sickless, decided, well, we're already providing our clients with an easy way to give back by doing something they already do. They order meals.
They're ordering the food anyway. We thought, why not develop menus that where when companies are ordering catering for their meetings or events, that they can bank those meals towards the Red Door program. Meaning, when they order one meal, we donate a meal back. We're hoping to get to the point where we're doing about 50,000 meals a year, which would translate into about $250,000 off of the Red Door books for them needing to buy food. So again, that would be money that they could then take and put into other programs and whatever they need to accommodate more people.
Most of our residents, over 50% and usually closer to 60%, are children on any given night. We have a huge focus of our programming for children's programs. We provide childcare, we have after-school programs, homework clubs, youth programs, wellness programs.
What was it about that moment that got you out of the situation?
Well, I was pregnant. It's just, I got to provide for my child and my future child a safe place. And Red Door did that for me.
When you have families that are healing from a trauma, every little gesture makes such a difference, and to feel really cared for and to be respected and to have your dignity be brought back to you makes a world of impact. Chef's Catering is a longtime family business. They've been around for over 40 years. We've been around for over 35 years, so we're long and both sort of established in the community. And what we really love about it, it's really families helping families. We really rely on other people, and it's a great way to, I think, inspire other people to give.
In this city, there's a lot of other people out there like me running these small businesses, restaurants, catering companies. And I think that this is such an easy thing to get involved in. I'd love to be able to see other people jump either on this bandwagon or kind of develop their own thing. The cost isn't that great, and it's really easy to do, and it really makes a lasting impact.
It really does.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and he thinks anyone else can kind of jump on the bandwagon and do that too. And they charge a little more for those Red Door meal menus, and that's how they offset it.
I love it. Remember, you can get your Greater Toronto ideas to us. Just send them to us at greatertoronto@cbc.ca, and you keep them coming.
Yes, we love them.
That's it for our show tonight. Thank you for that, Colin. Have a great weekend, everybody.